And I appreciate all the nice and wonderful things that Linda said about me, even if some of them may be a little stretch for you. So before I start my talk today, which is how God works through us, I want to ask you if you remember the creation story, the story of Adam and Eve and how they were in this idyllic garden, and it was warm and it was peaceful and it was wonderful. They could eat whatever they want except the forbidden fruit from the tree of wisdom. Well, being children, as we all are, of course they had to sample that fruit, and they were immediately expelled from the garden. So when I was in ministerial school, we, of course, had to read the Bible. You do that in ministerial school. And the teacher that taught the Old Testament class compared the story of Adam and Eve to the time before our birth when we're in the womb, where it's warm and it's wonderful, and we're in the eye of the hurricane, and no matter what turmoil is going around us, it's calm and peaceful, and we're being fed, and it's nice. And then all of a sudden, we're forced out into this world where we start to learn to be responsible for ourselves and for our actions. And that's when our education begins. We leave nirvana and we begin our education. And all of us who have had small children, or even been small children, remember that question, why? Why, Mom? Why? And then when we got a little older and we got in relationships, it was why? Why, right? Why did I do this? No, why is this working this way? You know, why? And then a little later, it's why me, God? You know, why? Now, some of us had patient and nurturing parents. Some of us, not so much. Some of us had wonderful, warm, and nurturing relationships. And some of us, not so much. But no matter what the relationship was like, it was a learning experience. And that's what we do. We go out into these situations and we start acquiring knowledge. And then something happens and we retreat and we regroup and we go out again and we acquire more knowledge. I remember when Reverend Ken Gordon was here, and he said, you know, once you're on the path, you may stray from the path, but you always come back because you're always looking and searching for that knowledge. Howard Thurman, in his book, The Inward Journey, suggests that we continually push the boundaries. We continually push the boundaries, trying to learn, and then we go back home again and again to find that tranquility of spirit. But first, we have to find something to be tranquil about. So I have a quote for him. He says, the need for a sense of peace beyond all conflict can be met only by something that gathers up into itself all meaning and all value. It is the claim of religion that this is found only in God. The pathways may vary, but the goal is the same. In the science of mind, we use the word God, or we use the word spirit, or we use, you know, the great one, the source, whatever it is, to mean that intelligent life principle, which the philosophers call reality, and that is what religion refers to when they're talking about that something that creates everything and that responds to our consciousness. To us, it is the first cause. By whatever we call it, consciously or unconsciously, we refer to it as being the all, and we, each one of us, are part of it. It is in us, it is through us, it works as us. And each one of us has a reason for being. I read this recently. We have a reason for being, or we wouldn't be here. You know, I mean, you think about it, you know, when you think about why is this happening to me again? Well, there's a reason. There's a reason for you to be here. You're an integral part of what's going on in the world. And sometimes, even though we have all of this community, we feel terribly alone. We feel terribly alone. And when we're feeling alone, what that really means is we have detached ourselves from our oneness with that divine presence. Because if we're all part of that presence, as we detach, we go into that feeling of being alone and lonely. When we believe we are alone, we have forgotten our connection to the one. Ernest Holmes in Love and Law says, I want you to think of yourself as in this mind. Don't think of this mind as being in you. Rather, think of yourself as a center in this mind. Of course, this mind flows through you, but think of yourself as a center in it. Sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes I forget that there's more to life than what I can sense with my five senses. There's more to life than what I believe is happening. There is more to life than what we currently are experiencing. You know, there's a cliche thing about when we see the sunset and we have this experience of being beyond, you know, I don't know what it takes for everybody, but all of us has something that moves us beyond being in our physical body. Puppies, babies, you know, different things that move us to being beyond the senses, beyond what we can put into words, what we can explain. And a man by the name of Abraham Herschel calls that radical amazement. And periodically throughout our lives, each one of us has a period or two of radical amazement, don't we? And think about this. Each one of those experiences is unique only to you. No one else is you. No one else will have the same experience they may see the same thing, but how they experience it is going to be different because they're individualized expressions of the one. Now we know there are facts. There are facts of things that happen, and there is truth, and they're not always the same. The fact is, sometimes I have experiences that make me feel not so happy. Sometimes we have experiences that make us feel perhaps like a victim. Perhaps we have experiences that we do not choose to repeat. But the truth is, beneath all of that, we are still individualized expressions of God. Even when we play the blame game and we put it out there, we understand that what's really happening to us is something that we can change. We have the power to move beyond, to rise above, to change the facts of what is happening to us because God works through us when we allow it. In Living the Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes talks about a valley in the Rocky Mountains. And he says that there are many different fountains in that valley. And they all express differently. Some of them are with great force. Some of them are little trickles. But beneath the ground, the source that feeds them all is the same source. And that's how we are too, isn't it? Each one of us expresses differently. One is not better or worse than the other. We're just different, and we express differently. We have different desires. We have different hopes. We have different methods of achieving whatever it is we want. And yet, ultimately, you and I are all connected to that one divine life that underlies all things, all beings, all creatures, rocks, animals, birds, one divine life, one energy, one power. Each one of us is one of those fountains. And that force flows through us differently. And each one of us has the ability to inhibit that flow if we choose to do so. When it flows through us freely, we can be happy, we can be joyful, we can be filled with love, we can be filled with light. And when we block it, we can be anxious and uncertain and way too serious. It's up to us. It's up to you. It's up to me how we choose to be. It's like the river flowing to the ocean. When there's a blockage in the river, you don't blame the water, do you? When there's a blockage in the river, you go to see what's dammed up there, what that blockage could be. And so when we do that, we can remove the blockage and allow the water to flow. When we go within and see what our blockage is, we can remove that and allow our consciousness to flow easily and effortlessly. And when it flows through us, we are happy, we are joy-filled, we are secure, we are rooted in the divine. And over and over and over we say, as Linda said earlier, there is a power in the universe that's greater than we are, and we can use it if we choose to use it. That's the key. We can inhibit the flow, or we can let it go. We can choke it back, or we can use it. The master teacher Jesus taught us that what it was important to do was to clear our minds of anything that doubts the existence of a higher power, whatever you want to call it. Wonkin tonkin. No, it doesn't matter what you call it. I call it God. Live, he says, as though you are love. That's what Jesus told us. Live, he says, as though you are love, because that is your very nature. It is up to you and I to let that nature express through us. It's up to us. And when things don't express as you would like them to happen, don't blame the river. Don't blame the source. Instead, allow yourself to go within honestly and truthfully and find out what is stopping that flow of good through you. When we identify the blockage and when we remove it, the good will flow again. In other words, for God to work through us, we have to be honest with ourselves and to remove those blockages in our thinking that keep our good from us. We can choose to respond to life with love and with peace and with joy. We can remove doubts with patience and with faith, and we can keep on keeping on. We don't give up. Ernest Holmes suggests in Living the Science of Mind that we use an affirmation. I have two here. The first is, I am a fountain of life and the living waters flow through me. And the second, he says, I will express joy today. I will be happy. I will bring gladness and enthusiasm into every experience of my life. I will maintain a quiet confidence and a peace and a sense of serenity. And I will be glad for the achievement of others and rejoice in their success. And we can do that. We can bring joy and peace and love into our lives. We can rejoice in someone else's accomplishments and not let that little bit of jealousy get in our way. And when we do that, when we rejoice in that, what we bring into our life is more abundance, more prosperity, more love, more light, wholeness, health, freedom, all of the things that we want, we can bring into our life when we keep that inlet and outlet open. We don't just allow good to flow to us, we allow good to flow through us. We don't want to bottle it up. We don't want to bottle it up. Most of us, everyone is interested in the source of what is, whatever name you want to call it. You know, I use God a lot, and there's nothing wrong with that. But many of us are not interested in religion. And there is a difference. There is a difference because sometimes in religion, truth gets mixed up with dogma, superstition, personalities, power. However, even if we've been turned off by organized religion, we still believe, don't we, that there's a divine intelligence that's in everything. A divine intelligence that's in all things. It flows through the plants and the animals. It flows through the trees. It just is. And there's no denying it. And there's no denying it. Ernest Holmes says it blossoms in the human mind as we learn to recognize that we are one. We are one with divine mind. We need to get to a place in our consciousness where we know the truth. We know the truth. Even when others deny it or ridicule it, we still know it. Scientists have shown us the entire planetary system is an orderly system. There's laws and rules and it's held in place by something, right? Some power. I personally have a deep conviction that that is God, that the universal intelligence exists. Some power created it. Some power created the universe and is continuing to create and create and create and think. It holds all those planets in place. There is some law that does that. And each of us know that we exist, don't we? We know we exist because we are currently experiencing existence. And I know you exist because I can see you. And I can communicate with you. And the other thing I know is that we're all part of a divine mind. And if you're part of divine mind and I can communicate with you, it stands to reason I can communicate with divine mind, doesn't it? That all of us have that power to communicate. And so the important thing is that we believe it, that we believe, that we build our belief. We must meditate on it and its perfection in order to feel its presence within our lives. It can and does work in us and through us. God works through us all the time. It starts with an idea. The idea is that God is, and man is in God. And man has consciousness. And we know that the Spirit is the cause of everything that is. In the beginning, it says, was the Word, the Spirit. And out of that came everything. And if nothing else existed, we have to have come out of that. We are part of it. And Spirit works through us. It creates through us. It expresses through us. Without us, it would not have the same means to express. And our thoughts create. And that creativity doesn't belong to us. We're just using it. Creativity belongs to everybody. It's like the law of mathematics. It's there for anybody who uses it. It's like electricity. If you can harness it and use it, it's there for anybody who wants it. It's not only mine. Each one of us gets to discover God in our own way, whatever we want to call it. We get to discover God in our own way because my God may manifest for me and my consciousness a little differently than yours manifests for you. My concept may be a little different because God is not out there. God is everywhere, but mostly God is within each one of us. There is no separation. You can't walk up here and say, okay, I stop here and God starts over there. You know, we're all part of it. God is everywhere present. And there's a lot of things that God is not. God is not lack. God is not poor. God is not illness. God is not separation. God is one with us. And so the truth is, if God is not poor and God has no lack and God is not poverty, then neither are we, because we are one with that divine Spirit. And so what I teach in my classes is watch how you language things and what you say I am. Do not say, I am sick, I am poor, I may feel sick, but the truth of who I am is whole, perfect, and complete, because I am one with God, and that's what God is. And what is true for God is true for each and every one of us, because we are part of it. We are part of it. And it's up to each one of us to reach back into our center, find that divine presence within us, and move from that place of oneness. And no one can tell you, I'm going to tell you, Linda, exactly how to do it, because I'm not her. I can't tell her how to do it. I can't tell any one of you how to do it. It's a conscious choice you need to make for yourself. How do you move to center? How do you allow that divine presence to express through you? How do you allow God to work through you? The discovery of self is by the self and through the self and to the self. No one else can do it for you. And if you're waiting for someone to come along and do that, for your guru to come and fix you, it's not going to happen. It can't. We're responsible for ourselves, each and every one of us. You know, we learned in foundations class about the teaching symbol. And so we have divine mind, where the thought begins, moves down to the creative medium, and creates something physical in the physical world. Everything begins with thought, so it's up to you to choose what it is you want in your life. The creative principle is mathematical, but the use of it is personal. How you use to choose that principle is up to you. Ernest Holmes says, the way the law and the work is, first of all, absolute intelligence. Next is word or thoughts, which set the law in motion, for the word is the law of mind and action. And then at the end of the sequence is the creation or the formation of the word in specific circumstances. The thing we want, comes from the thing itself, doesn't it? Many sacred books and many belief systems tell us the very same thing. It's not unique to this philosophy. It truly is not. The word acting as law produces a result. We are surrounded by a psychic life, a subjective, creative, conscious, receptive, neutral, and plastic force, which receives the impress of our thoughts always and has no alternative. Ernest Holmes says that in Love and Law. So you have a homework assignment for this week. I always give homework assignments. And your homework assignment for this week is to listen. Listen. Create your intentions. Create your affirmations, but listen. Listen to divine mind for those divine ideas that'll help you remove those blockages so that the power and the presence of God flows freely through you, creating everything you want and desire in your life. Let go of the perception of what should be and allow a true and perfect vision of your purpose to come into your life. Our prayers are answered and our intentions are realized through these new ideas. So go within and listen for those new ideas and stop talking at spirit long enough to get a response, you know? Listen, God, here's what I want. Here's what I want you to do. Here's how I want you to do it. If we would stop and listen and quit talking at spirit, we may find an amazing new path to follow in our lives. And with that being said, I'd like to invite you to join me in prayer. Sweet, sweet Spirit, Father, Mother God, that divine and holy presence in which we live and breathe and have our being, that creative intelligence that flows in through and as each and every one of us. that power and presence that is life and love and peace and joy and abundance. I am one with that whole and holy presence. And if that is true for me, that is true for each and every person here. One with the one. One with health. One with wholeness. One with peace and joy and compassion. I know there's absolutely nothing outside of God. So as I move through this week, I know that all of my interactions are God communicating and interacting with God. I know that the light and the power and the presence of the divine vibrates in every cell and fiber of our beings. I know that health and wholeness are our divine birthright. I know the abundance of the one flows to us and through us as we opened our minds, our hearts, and our hands to receive all the good that God has in store for us. And I'm so grateful. I am grateful for the wisdom and the knowledge and the love of God. I am grateful for that powerful presence of Spirit. I am grateful for the opportunities we have to come together and join in community and share the love and the peace and the joy of the one. I release this word now to the perfect working of the perfect law, which always, always, and only says yes. Please join me in affirming, and so it is.